I love her and I miss her so much, and I can't wait for her to be back home with us. Let the balloons go.
We let the balloons go, but we're not letting Neffy go. We remain faithful to believe the Lord.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
Happy birthday, Neffy. In the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus. Yes, God.
Those were very emotional family members, including the mother of missing person Nefertiri Trader. It has been a really long and hard 5 years for this family. I'm hoping there's something that we can do by raising exposure, getting more eyes, ears, and hearts open to this case. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Nefertiri Trader. Welcome to another episode of Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. This is the case that we're taking on. Nefertiri Trader, also known as Neffy by her loved ones. She's been missing since June 29th, 2014. She was 33 years old at the time, black female, stands at 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighs around 125 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. She does have tattoos on her right chest, left arm, and lower back. This is the type of occurrence that people literally have nightmares about. This woman was seemingly abducted from her front yard. First of all, I want to give a very big thank you to a reporter that's been working hard on raising exposure for this case. Her name is Claudia Rivero. The clips that we saw at the start of this video came from information that she's put out previously. She also collaborated with my friend Marissa Jones over at The Vanished. The Vanished has done an episode on this as well. Of course, all the links to their materials will also be in the description box below, but I wanted to thank them for working so hard on this case. It's been a while since I've used The Vanished as a source, and there's a reason why I support them. Literally, I'm a patron of that show. Marissa does fantastic work and drew out a few details that I didn't even find going through all this as well. So we're going to touch on some of those details by the end of this video. But it really starts with the reporters, and that's why I really wanted to call out Claudia. She's been really pushing to get this case more exposure, and obviously I believe that's what this case needs, because here we are talking about it right now. Starting at the NamUs profile, let's see what else we can learn. So date of last contact, June 29th, 2014. She's missing from Newcastle, Delaware. Current age would be 38 years old. We've already touched on her nickname is Neffy. We've got the same numbers in terms of height and weight matching here. In terms of circumstances of disappearance, this is sometimes I'm really blown away at how light this field is on NamUs. Missing without explanation, foul play suspected. We're going to get some details from the news reports it's going to give us a much clearer picture of what's going on with this case. Once again, brown hair, brown eyes, tattoos on the right chest, left arm, and lower back. It says description forthcoming. I haven't seen any description, and I don't think Marissa covered it in The Vanished as well. It might be helpful to get that information out. I don't know if there are pictures. Pictures would obviously be the top, but even if we could just get a description of what those tattoos are and get that added to NamUs, that could be very, very helpful, especially for what NamUs can do in terms of solving some of these cases. Clothing and accessories. For clothing, she was last seen wearing a pink sweatsuit. I haven't seen much more detail than that. Once again, if we could just have a little more detail, maybe the manufacturer of the sweatsuit, if there was any logos or designs on it, any specific patterns, things like that might be helpful. And this is one of those somewhat rare cases where we also have a vehicle that's missing. A 2000 Acura. Here it's saying it's CL. In other places I've been hearing it's an RL, but it is a silver-colored sedan, and it has Delaware license plate 404893. The vehicle's still missing. Been missing for 5 years. Obviously a very big part of this mystery as well. So starting at Charlie Project, just to fill in a couple details. Once again, thank you to Megan for her excellent work here. Pink sweatsuit. All other details are pretty much a match for NamUs. Trader was last seen outside her home in the Saddlebrook area of Newcastle, Delaware, off Christiana Road on June 29th, 2014. Trader's family believes she left the house to get something at the nearby convenience store and was abducted from her front porch and forced into her own vehicle, a silver 2000 Acura RL listed here, with the Delaware license plate number 404893 after she arrived home. So she did get to the convenience store. We're going to get some of those details as well. She's never been heard from again, and her car has never been located. These things are always tough, but when there's also a vehicle missing, it just really amps it up for me. It's an object that just has identifying marks literally all over it. So how can that thing just be completely gone? How can that just disappear? Marissa raised some good points. Is it sitting in someone's garage? Is it locked up somewhere? Is it possibly in a water source? I have to agree with her. We do have a close proximity to the Delaware River from where this abduction happens. I sincerely hope that's not the outcome of this case, but it's definitely a consideration. Back to Charlie Project. Trader was employed in the housekeeping department at Christiana Hospital and was on medical leave at the time of her disappearance. She leaves behind 3 children. Really, really tough whenever we're talking about kids not knowing where their loved ones are. So here is just kind of a quick map. We have Christiana Hospital, which is where she did work when she was working, but as it stated, she was on leave. That information was also supported by the vanished. And this is the neighborhood that she was living on. It's called Freedom Trail. And there's a bit of an interesting layout here. If we go to the satellite view, you can see that one way in, one way out. Freedom Trail is basically it, and that takes you to Christiana Road, and then you're either going right or you're going left. But you've got a lot of, these are duplexes. These homes face each other in a lot of areas. I don't know what specific home it is, but we do know that a neighbor has some key information with this case. And then, of course, there's a big field that's kind of in the middle. A lot of opportunities to be seen here, but it also depends on what time this is going down. And we do believe that this was in the 4 a.m. hour that this abduction happened. Let's start with our first official news source on here, NBCPhiladelphia.com. Missing woman may have been abducted. This was reported July 1st, 2014. Nefertiri Trader, 33, was last seen on Monday around 4 a.m. outside her home on Freedom Trail in Newcastle. According to police, a witness claimed he or she saw Trader being forced into her vehicle by an unidentified person. The vehicle then left the scene. So big questions that come up with that right off the bat. Where did this person come from? Was this person following her from somewhere? Stalking her? Was this person familiar with her habits and knew that she would be leaving? It's kind of an odd hour for an abduction like this to happen. Was this someone that she was possibly meeting up with? We've got a lot of different possibilities. How did this person get in her yard, and how did this abduction happen is the key question, I think, in this case, especially as we start going through the details here. Jumping up to CBSLocal.com. Someone saw her being taken out of her residence with force, an officer said. The eyewitness is neighbor Joe Robinson, who filled in the blanks with haunting detail, starting with a scream. "It was loud enough to wake us up," is a quote directly from him. When Robinson got to the window, he says he saw Trader, who appeared limp, unconscious, being thrown into her silver Acura before driving off. He was dragging her. She wasn't moving or anything. Robinson says the man was shrouded in a black hoodie wearing tan shorts. Trader was living with her 3 children and cousin William, who says that they were relaxing just a few hours earlier before she gave him a ride to work. So with a description like this, obviously cause for huge concern, but I can tell you there's one important fact that this article doesn't go into, and that's that Joe Robinson didn't call the police. He saw that, and he didn't call. Now, we're going to get some explanations later, but I can tell you after looking through numerous message boards about this case and what people are talking about, everyone is wondering, why wouldn't he have called police? Now, looking at a case like this and looking at other cases similar to this, calling police, could it have helped? It certainly would have got them on the trail faster that they needed to follow. But would it have been enough for like an instant response to a situation like this? I don't know. I mean, we're talking about something that must have been a very fast occurrence from when the shout happens that wakes him up. The guy literally is putting her in the car by the time he's gotten up and gotten to the window to look out. Even if he jumped on the phone to police, I don't know what the response time is in that area. They come out, they question him. I think there's a very good chance the vehicle would have been far enough that they might have had a shot as they're driving to the scene. If they knew what vehicle they were looking for, if it was actually called in that way. I mean, it certainly would have increased the chances. I can't deny that. But I know that Nefertiri's mother is very critical of Joe. Joe since has kind of changed his story according to the information that came out on the Vanish podcast. There's been some discrepancies in the versions of the stories that he's told. Really makes everyone wonder, is this a situation where the neighborhood isn't talking up, that something is being silenced in this area around this incident? But Joe, if he was going to be silenced in this incident, why did he even respond to this at all? Apparently, they found him when they canvassed the neighborhood, and he let them know, yeah, I saw something, and he told them what it was. If he really knew who the suspect was and he was afraid of some form of retaliation or something like that, he could have just said, I was asleep. No, I didn't hear anything. No, I didn't see anything. So the motivations for Joe in particular, a little tough to understand just because why didn't he call the police? But I'm wondering if it wouldn't have been a silver bullet to this problem. Let me just put it that way. It wouldn't have absolutely solved this case right off the bat. Could it have helped dramatically? Yeah, perhaps. But we won't know because he didn't make that phone call. According to some other information we're going to bump into, he didn't make that phone call because he thought that maybe she was being taken to a hospital. According to what he's saying here, he doesn't necessarily see an attack. He hears someone scream. It wakes him up. He gets to the window. It looks like she's limp. And it's weird because here the author of the piece is saying that she was being thrown into her silver Acura, but that's actually not a quote from him. I don't know that that's how he's describing it. So the situation that he talks about, that he thought maybe this was a friend of hers that was putting her in the car to get her to some help of some kind, I don't know if it's the smartest thing in the world, but I don't know that it's completely unreasonable either. Continuing on to 6abc.com, this is an article published on July 2nd, 2014. Search continues for woman. Police have issued a gold alert in their search for a woman. I think that's the first time I've heard gold alert, so I actually looked it up specifically for Delaware. Gold alert program means the procedures used to aid in the identification and location of a missing person as defined under paragraphs 4, 5, and 6 of this section. So the major categories are person missing with a disability, missing senior citizen, or a person that is missing that is likely to harm themselves or possibly end their own life. The condition that she specifically fits in is actually under Clause 4, missing person with a disability. There's a subsection here, whose disappearance poses a credible threat to the health or safety of the person as determined by the investigating law enforcement agency. So I don't know if they're talking about she was apparently going through some type of medical procedure, and we have really no details outside of that on this. I saw a little mention of it on the Charlie Project. Vanished had basically just what I told you. That's it. So I don't know if it's whatever medical procedure she was going through that put her in this classification, or if they're saying simply because we have this witness that says it looks like she may have been attacked and put into the back of her car, that could be also seen, I believe, as a credible threat to her health or safety. So one of those two conditions is what's fitting in there, and police are following the gold alert process. Nefertiri's cousin, William Trader, lives in the same house. He tells Action News that Nefertiri's 17-year-old son and younger daughter were in the house Sunday night when the son heard a commotion downstairs. However, when he ventured down to investigate, no one was there. Kind of an interesting statement because from the details we get, it seems like whatever commotion was happening was probably at the front door, maybe on the porch, or maybe even in the front yard. I don't know that it actually got inside. According to what we've covered already, her cousin William isn't there at this point. So it kind of makes you wonder, was she potentially meeting up with someone? Was she having a date of some kind? Did she invite this person into the home, then was asking him to leave or something like that? But some of the details we're going to get really makes it seem like she was coming back from the convenience store and something happened as soon as she got back. I just think it's interesting that we have this information about her 17-year-old son saying that he heard a commotion downstairs. I don't think that necessarily negates outside of the house, but it does make me think, did he hear something actually in the house? Especially because he did go down to investigate, and I assume that he just went downstairs and checked the bottom of the house and then went back up to bed. He didn't think to go check the front, so it seems like he really thought the commotion actually was inside the home. There's a lot of assumption going on in there. I'm just trying to figure this thing out with you guys. I'm trying to be clear about when I do make assumptions like that. William tells us the whole thing that threw me off when I got off was a loaf of bread on the ground, and her shoes and a pack of cigarettes was on the porch. And that's just not her. She would call you like, I'm leaving some cigarettes here, anything like that. She didn't call nobody, and her phone was off. Good to know that the phone is with her. Curious to know more about ping information. There's not a whole lot of ping information. There's a little bit of a rumor we'll touch on by the end of this, but really no other information about the phone comes up in this case. Going on to another article at philadelphia.cbslocal.com, family pleads for public's help. And this is July 10th. So we're talking almost 2 weeks after the occurrence. Nefertiri Trader's 3 children and mom are simply devastated. According to her aunt, Janice Webb, we miss her. Her family misses her. Her mother's a basket case. Her children are hanging in as much as they can, Webb said. Earlier that night, she was seen on surveillance video at a 7-Eleven at Airport Road and Route 273, and it's believed that she headed home from there. So just to show you guys where this is, very, very close, not even half a mile away from the circle that she lives in is 273 and Airport Road, and that's where the 7-Eleven used to be. I guess it's now closed. So short trip. She buys a few things, she heads home, and some of the things that she bought are actually found in the front yard. That's why I'm kind of leaning on the assumption that she didn't actually make it inside the house. Another quote from her cousin William, we know she went to the store. She came home and whoever was here and she got taken, said her cousin. Trader was last seen being put into her car, a silver 2000 Acura RL, Delaware license plate 404893. And this is the type of car. This is another 2000 silver Acura RL, just so you know what we're looking for. Just want to give a quick thank you to 6ABC and CBS Local for trying to help this family covering this case in this way so quickly right after the event. July 10th, 2014, on the front lawn where Nefertiri Trader was last seen, family and friends said prayers and made emotional pleas to the public. Please let my sister come home. Her kids need her, Sister Jaqueen Trader said. Then we get an interesting statement from her cousin William. There are people closer to the witness that I know heard her better than he did or saw something a lot more clear than he did. It's weird because they actually put the witness in there, and I don't think they meant that. I think what he's trying to say is there are people that live closer to where this actually happened that heard her better than he did or saw a lot more than he did. Interestingly, if there are, none of those details are being released publicly. I'm sure investigators know the information that William's referring to, but the only statements we're getting are from that one specific neighbor. Police say there is no activity on her missing phone or credit cards. The owner of the 7-Eleven tells Action News the store's surveillance video captured her around 4:20 a.m. wearing a pink sweatsuit. She bought 2 cups of coffee, a loaf of bread, and cigarettes. So that raises an interesting point. 2 cups of coffee, a loaf of bread, and cigarettes. Kind of sounds like she's doing a morning run. You know, she wants to go home, maybe make some toast. She's got coffee with her. Who is the second cup for? When I was first looking into this, I kind of latched onto that right away. I'm like, okay, what's going on with this second cup of coffee? Marissa asked her mom about it in the Vanished episode, and the mother is very clear that Nefertiri would usually buy 2 cups of coffee, one for her and one for her daughter, and they would spend time having coffee together in the morning. So not out of the norm for them, and not a clear indication that she had actually planned for someone else to be there, that she had bought a second cup of coffee potentially for a date or someone else like that. Police say that they don't know if she was alone or followed home, but they don't believe this was random, and it's not clear if Trader had any problems in her personal life. One of the other interesting points that kind of came up on the Vanished is the witness eventually starts saying that he believes that there was, I don't know if he said drug dealing or drug use going on at that house. Her mother completely denies it, says, no, there's nothing like that was going on there. You had 3 kids living there. The older cousin was living there. I don't know if there's anything to that or not. I have no idea. It does occur to me that with this type of situation, if people are really being tight-lipped about this and not sharing information to actually help progress this case, which the FBI seems to be kind of clear that they think that's what they're running up against, what is that element? What are people afraid of there? It has to be either some type of known gang, some type of known drug dealer, something along those lines that would intimidate people in that way. So even if that's not necessarily the case, is there something else at play here? And it might not be that it was Nefertiri's interaction with them at all that motivated it. It could just be that they know that guy from around the block and he just happened to key onto her, followed her home. That's one of the things, though, about this thought that she was followed home from 7-Eleven. That implies another vehicle. Admittedly, it is only half a mile, but you know what? Actually, interestingly, I don't think I have confirmation anywhere that she was actually driving. Wow. Yeah, I don't. At that point, all we know is the owner of the 7-Eleven saying that store surveillance video captured her in her clothing, didn't mention her vehicle at all. So I suppose there might be a possibility, because it's literally a 10-minute walk. There is some possibility that she might have walked it. It's literally her local convenience store. If that's the case, then perhaps she could have been followed back home. Yeah, I really haven't thought about that consideration until right now. There's nothing saying that she actually drove, and it's less than half a mile. It's like 0.4 of a mile, so it would be even less than a 10-minute walk. So we know what items she bought at the 7-Eleven, but there's actually another item found on the porch that really raises some questions in terms of what the heck was going on here. Over at DelawareOnline.com, whoever abducted Nefertiri Trader from her home on June 30th left behind few clues. A stomped loaf of bread lay on the front lawn. So we know that's one of the items she bought at 7-Eleven. I haven't heard anything about them possibly trying to analyze what size shoe at least would have stepped on the bread. I don't know if it was her that stepped on it or if it was the perpetrator. A pack of Newport cigarettes and an unopened condom sat on a porch chair. Now, that is certainly interesting to me for 2 reasons, because obviously, what the heck is an unopened condom doing out on the porch like that? Second is the way this is stated, it's saying that both the cigarettes and the condom were on a porch chair. Like, were they literally together? Were they sitting on the seat of the chair? Were they on the arm of the chair? It's just making me wonder, how did the cigarettes get next to that? Once again, is that showing intent that maybe she had a boyfriend that was coming over or something like that? Or is it showing intent that no, that was brought by someone else? Maybe she didn't know anything about their intent. I don't know, but it's curious to me that both those items are found on the chair. I just would love to know if they were actually together. Were they placed neatly? Were they just thrown there? Then there were her flip-flops, one right next to the other, near the front door of her Saddlebrook home near Newcastle. He took her barefoot, said her mother, 57-year-old Denise Trader. Once again, if we're looking at just the intent of what's going on here, sounds like she's getting home. Maybe she's going to leave her shoes at the front door and let herself in. The person decides to attack her before they actually go in, and then pulls her out and puts her in the car. And then it's strange to me because if I'm thinking of this as kind of a traditional sexual assault situation, even if someone was followed home, I think most typically, yeah, there might be an attack at the front door, but then they would push through into the house to actually conduct it. And that's not what we're having here. But it seems like she was really close to getting inside that door. Is that condom being left behind, is that a sign of some kind? Is that supposed to have some meaning, or is it just to throw authorities off or something? I don't know. I'm really scratching my brain on that. It eats me up a whole lot, Trader told the News Journal. It's not a day goes by that I don't wonder where she's at and when she'll be back. For the family of Nefertiri Trader, there's a lot of frustration. There's frustration that police aren't working hard enough to find her, especially as the family sees other people being found. Newcastle County police detectives have not had strong leads nor any solid information on Nefertiri's disappearance, but they continue to investigate it. It's still open. It's still active, said Officer Tracy Duffy, a county police spokeswoman. It's been more than 4 months since Nefertiri was forced into her car. A nearby neighbor, Joe Robinson, happened to be awake about 4 a.m. when Nefertiri's porch light lit up. Robinson looked out his second-story bedroom window and saw a man dragging the woman into her Acura. By the time Robinson walked downstairs, the car had left. Now, I've been hearing this criticism and seeing it online too, that this is one of his story changes, that essentially before he was sleeping and was awoke by the sound of a scream. In this version, it's saying that he happened to be awake and that he saw the porch light lit up. I don't know. First of all, this is not a quote from him that's happening in this version. So I'm already kind of wondering, is this really accurate or not? They're not taking him word for word here. The second thing is, why would the porch light have lit up? I mean, I guess it's potentially on a motion detector. So maybe if she had driven up and got out of the car, or if she had walked up, it triggered the motion detector and that had the porch light kick on. But most porch lights, there isn't an external switch. It's inside the house. So someone would have had to have been inside the house and turned that on. Just another question. I wish I knew if that was a motion activated light or not. Unsure if someone was sick and being taken to the hospital, Robinson said he didn't call police. Had I known something was going on like that, I wouldn't have hesitated, he said. It bothers me. I hope they find her. Trader said her daughter's 3 children, they're talking about her mother, ages 18, 12, and 8 are being cared for by their aunt. The family recently held a fundraiser to help the children. Trader said she avoids support groups. Only person I talk to about it is God, she said, and I have a best friend that I talk to about it. I'm glad she at least has a friend that she can lean on, but man, I would say increase your team with whatever friends you can find. If there are support groups local to help you with that, it's just after 5 years, this cannot be easy for her to deal with. And I really wish that she would take all the help that she can get there. But I'm thankful she's got her faith and she at least has a good friend that she can open up to. I want my child back home. We love her, we miss her, and we just want her back. And here is a picture of her mother. A mother's frustration, Nefertiri Trader still missing. This is from February 18th, 2015 from NBCPhiladelphia.com. The family of Nefertiri Trader will gather around the dinner table on Saturday, February 21st, to mark the 34th birthday of the missing woman. It talks about the fact that her mother is making her favorite meal on that also. Denise sent the woman's cousin to her Freedom Trail home after calls to her phone went unanswered. So that's one of the other big criticisms about this story also is the missing persons report is not called in for many hours. And I keep hearing 17 hours and I'm doing the math on the time frames I've heard and it's not work coming out to 17. It's something more like 12 to 14 hours. Essentially, you have her go missing around 4 a.m. Her mother doesn't know what's going on and kind of assumes, well, I wonder if she went back to work. She would be home from work around 6. And, you know, she's trying to contact her all day. She never hears from her. So she gets in touch with her cousin and sends her cousin over to the house to look. And of course, we know the cousin shows up and sees all the stuff in the front yard. So we have a pretty big gap of time. And I know that's part of why this is so tough on the family and why they're looking back at Joe and saying, why didn't you call police? That could have made all the difference in the world. So it's at least 12 hours, at least according to the math I've done and the information here at NBCPhiladelphia.com. The lost time, more than 12 hours passed between the alleged abduction and the witness's report, infuriates Denise. She is still with us, she said. Denise prays her daughter will be home in time to blow out her candles with her 3 kids, ages 8, 12, and 18, by her side. She's being held captive somewhere. I just feel it. We now get a statement from NamUs. The chances of recovery of someone missing, say 30 or 60 days, diminishes rapidly, and chances of them being found alive are very slim, said Richard Scanlon of NamUs. Certainly true if you're looking at things from a numbers perspective and overall odds, but we do have cases, they are outliers, but we do have cases where sometimes people are being held captive for prolonged periods of time. But the vast majority, he's absolutely right. The likelihood of getting any type of resolution to a missing persons case in Delaware is slim. Nearly 79% of the state's missing persons cases remain open, according to statistics from NamUs. I've never heard a stat so high there, and I think there's more conditions to this stat that we're not hearing. You know, the one that we hear all the time is 99% of missing persons cases are closed out within the first 24 to 48 hours, or sometimes up to 72 hours. And that certainly seems to be true. You know, I track a lot of cases that you guys never see on the channel because I hear about them early on. I start watching them, and then literally in a couple days, they're solved. I think there's something else in this stat, likely some type of amount of days that's added here. Like maybe cases that go longer than 60 days have a 79% rate of not being solved, something along those lines. So this number seems a little off to me. The numbers frustrate Denise, who claims investigators are not doing enough. They haven't found anything, nothing, she said flatly. It's always tough with these families, especially when you don't have good communication going on between the police departments and the family members. But even when you do, there's still this element of they can't tell the families everything that's going on in the investigation. They don't do that. So even if there is progress being made, they're probably not going to let the family know about that type of progress, because you're putting the family on a roller coaster then. Hey, you know what? We made this great new lead and we're going and we're talking to this guy, and all of a sudden they're getting excited. Wow, I think I'm finally coming to the end of all this. And then 2 weeks later, oh, we talked to the guy. It's not who we thought, or they didn't have the information we were looking for. And now they're back down, and sometimes even lower than they were before. So I don't think it's the worst policy in the world. I think there should be good communication going on between these parties. But I understand why they have to hold their cards close to their vest sometimes. And obviously you also have the conditions of, if there is a criminal act here, they want it to get to a trial. They don't want to jeopardize or risk the trial by releasing that type of information. I get that as well. But it's always a really tough situation in cases like this, because you feel for these families and you want them to feel like there's work being done and progress being made. I'm just keeping the faith that whoever abducted her, God will soften their heart, said Denise Trader. Now, we also have the FBI involved here. They're putting a lot of help behind it. One of those things is there is a pretty substantial reward. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $20,000 for information about the kidnapping of Nefertiri Trader. That's on top of a $10,000 reward that's being offered by the local authorities. So that's $30,000 towards this case. That's a lot of money for a case like this. And very surprising to me that that's not bringing in some tips that are pointing them in the right direction. And once again, kind of points back to that question about, are we talking about some type of known criminal element here that is scaring the tipsters away? Also, I noticed here on the FBI's page, they have a little bit of additional detail that we didn't get on the NamUs profile. Trader also has a scar on her left leg. We don't have a description of what size or what type of scar it is, but that's additional information in terms of physical description. And I know we've thanked her previously, but here is a photo of Claudia Rivero, and this is actually a little bit of an update from her website, ClaudiaRiveroTV.com. On March 28th, 2017, the case of missing Delaware mom Nefertiri Trader took a turn. The mother of 3, who was abducted outside her home in 2014, is now presumed dead. Despite the ruling, Denise Trader believes her daughter is out there and wants to remind the public that a $30,000 reward is being offered for information that leads to Nefertiri's whereabouts. I'm kind of surprised at this declaration of death happening within 3 years of the abduction. I look into so many cases, and sometimes even when families are pushing for getting a declaration of death, they can't. But this is happening less than 3 years into the disappearance. I don't know. I don't know what motivated that, and I don't know what the benefit of that is, unless potentially by declaring that moves more resources into the investigation, or it moves it from being a missing persons investigation to being a homicide investigation, and then additional resources can be allocated, something along those lines. I would like to think there's some type of major benefit for them putting the family through that, because I just don't see it. I mean, yes, I know that there are what's called a no-body homicide case that certainly does happen. There's several of them that are actually going on right now, but this is a little bit different, and we're not being given clear information about why they made that declaration. Did they hear about this? Is this as a result of their investigation? If it is, I would hope that they would share that with the family, but obviously we have Denise here still saying she believes that she's still out there. So if they did have that information, either they didn't relay it to the family, or they did and Denise is just opting to not believe it for some reason. Which, I mean, could you blame her? I mean, even if you heard what you thought was solid information, if you're not seeing it for yourself and it's your daughter, are you going to believe that information? Moving on to another article from DelawareOnline.com. This is one of the later articles published on this from February 21st, 2018. 4 years later, Newcastle mom believes daughter is still alive. So it goes over just a brief retelling of the story. Then it also touches on the FBI is continuing to offer the $20,000, county police continuing to offer the $10,000 for info, leading to a conclusion to the case. While the search parties for Nefertiri Trader have dropped off in recent years, her mother said she still keeps an eye out for her daughter. I've heard that some girl has been spotted in ShopRite over on South Market Street, she said. Some girl who resembles her has been spotted over there. Now, one other piece of information that came out in both Claudia's coverage and on the Vanished podcast is there was an additional sighting of this vehicle. It was picked up by a security camera. So I know initially we were talking about if she was going to 7-Eleven, she would go up Freedom Trail, she'd make a left on Christiana Road, and she would be at the 7-Eleven. The vehicle, when it left this time, looks like it went right on Christiana. It's picked up on a security camera at this Verizon retailer. And unfortunately, I haven't seen any detail about what direction it's actually going in. I don't know if it's continuing on what is known as Frenchtown Road or if it's going up the 40. This Verizon retailer is right on the corner. So we don't get any real good sense of direction outside of, we know that they're traveling east. And of course, what's concerning about that is if you keep going east, you're running into a significant water source, which is the Delaware River, which we always have to look at when we're talking about missing persons cases. And in particular, when you have vehicles missing, water sources are certainly one of the places where they will often be found. There's other water sources around here as well. And there's an airport right here. There's all kinds of different possibilities for what happened here. I just wish that we had some clear understanding of what direction the vehicle was actually going on here. And the other thing that kind of boggles my mind is if it is continuing up the 40, there's a ton of businesses there. I would think that there would be more security cameras, and there might be. It could be that police do have information about later stops on this trip. However, if it does continue on Frenchtown Road, not as many businesses that are facing that road, certainly. So it might make more sense that it is that direction. But for them to track it to there, using that method, I would like to think that they were actually tracking it further. I just don't know why they haven't released that information publicly. So once again, in the description box below, all the different sources we looked through today The videos by Claudia also down there, the Vanished podcast down there. And once again, I just have to give a huge shout out to Marissa. She does such good work. When I listen to one of her shows, I'm proud to be a part of this community. So thank you so much, Marissa. On top of that, a statement I wanted to leave you guys with that I found at a website called ourblackgirls.com that is covering this story as well. Note to my neighbors, or should I say any and everybody, if you see someone dragging me from my home and throwing me into a vehicle before speeding off, please call the police. Please, without hesitation. Certainly a very big lesson that I think all of us could learn from this story, and I truly hope that we have some form of outcome for this family. This is terrible. This is a mother. These are 3 children that don't know where their mom is. It's a horrible situation. There is a Facebook page. Not a lot of updates going on recently that I could see here. You know, it's been 5 years, and essentially what they do post whenever they get some coverage, they do keep talking about the rewards still being available, but of course I'll have this link down below. And there are a couple discussion threads, like I touched on in this video. Most of them are basically being critical about Joe. This Reddit thread kind of largely falls into that. There is a Web Sleuths thread also that runs about 5 pages long. Much more information there and a lot of links. Some of them don't work anymore, but might be a better source if you're really trying to dig into this case more. But it really comes back to Neffy. Where is Neffy, and can we find some answers for this family? If you're someone out there that has this information, please do the right thing. Use the contact info below. You can call the county police. There's even an email address down there. If you don't want to contact them for any reason, Crime Stoppers will take your call anonymously. And you are still eligible for rewards if you use Crime Stoppers. They've got a system where they give you a randomized number. You hold on to that number. When you see the case get solved, you give them a call back with that number and they say, yep, you're the one, and they give you the reward. So don't think that just because you call it in anonymously that you're not going to be eligible for that. You still are. Of course, if for some reason you don't trust the local authorities, you don't want to go to Crime Stoppers, you can also call the FBI in this case. You can call them directly. Their phone number is down there also. Big thank you to everyone that's been trying to help with this case, and I hope that we can help re-raise exposure, keep more people talking and thinking about Neffy and trying to bring her home. Before we end today's video, there is one other aspect to this case mentioned in the Vanish podcast, and that is a little bit of a rumor that her cell phone was actually powered on and then turned off later that year that she went missing. And then I saw a little bit of noise online about this, that some family members, I think, got upset that people were talking about that because they think the person that turned it on saw that and then powered it off, or potentially it could have affected them. I don't know if there's anything really to that, if it actually did power on and off or not, but just wanted to share that with you because it's one of the other points that Vanish covered. And Marissa basically said the same thing. This is kind of rumor territory, and that's why I wanted to put it out there in this way. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Michael Park, Mark Witt, and Crazy Aunt CC. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And if you want to support the channel, you can do that at www.lordenarts.com. You can use PayPal, you can use Patreon, you can buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, trying to help families just like the Trader family on today's case. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you back here on Friday with a new episode of Brainscratch on the Lord and Arts channel.